In today's show, I'll be breaking down the latest Bitcoin technical analysis as Bitcoin trades above 69,000 following the largest quarterly options expiry in history. I'm also going to be sharing with you a $10.5 million Bitcoin price projection from the high priest, Max Keiser, as well as Bitcoin to attract $1 trillion from institutions amid the raging bull market, according to the Bitwise executive. We'll also be discussing new Bitcoin ETFs now hold 500,000 BTC, while GBTC outflows continue to slow down. I'm also going to be sharing with you a Wyckoff SOS, which could catapult the Bitcoin price to 100,000 per coin, according to the hedge fund manager, as well as Bitcoin skyrocketing by over 110% if history repeats, says hedge fund veteran Mark Yusko. I'll be sharing his timeline. We'll also be discussing how high can Bitcoin realistically go this cycle. New Bitcoin price predictions see the cycle top at 180,000 per coin. We'll also be taking a look at the overall crypto market. All this, plus so much more, in today's show. If you're new to the channel, make sure to smash the subscribe button to receive daily premium crypto news alerts every day, just like this. Also equally important to hit that thumbs up, smash the like. It helps out tremendously with the YouTube algorithm. Today is pod episode number 1593. I'm your host, JV, and today is Good Friday, March 29th, 2024. It is Easter weekend, family, so make some noise in that chat. Let's kick it off with our market watch as we do each and every day. We got Bitcoin trading above 69,600. We corrected from 71,000, which we tap yesterday. ETH also correcting back down to 3,500, while Solana, Cardano, XRP, Polkadot, and Tron are in the green and pumping. And checking out coinmarketcap.com, we're sitting at a 2.66 trillion market cap with roughly 87 billion in volume for the past 24 hours. Bitcoin dominance still on the decline at 52%, with the Ether dominance, which has been on the decline for a while, now down to 16%. Last time we tapped into the 15% range, ETH dominance skyrocketed into the 18%, 19% range, and now we're back down. So keep an eye on that level. And checking out the top 100 crypto gainers of the past 24 hours. We got WIF, the meme coin, leading the pack, up 14%, Litecoin up 10%, and Bitcoin Cash up 8%. Below that, Filecoin, Celestia, eCash, and Stacks. Now, which altcoins family are you guys most bullish on for this bull run? Holla at your boy. And checking out the crypto bubbles to get more of a visual perspective, I'd say roughly 60, maybe even as high as 70% of the alt market in the green today, but many are pulling back. And zooming out on the monthly, safe to say 90% of the market in the green, with the meme coins clearly leading the pack, some up over 500%. And checking out the crypto greed and fear index, we're currently rated a 79 in extreme greed. Yesterday 80, last week 75, and last month an 82. Now, why we pay attention to this metric is the higher this number goes, the more likely of a correction. Remember, we had a 10,000 correction in a single day. That was after tapping 90. So right now we're at a 79, and we'll keep a close eye on that. And checking out the Bitcoin halving countdown clock, today's estimated halving date is April 22nd, meaning we have 24 days left to go approximately, give or take a few days. It could be longer or shorter. Some are predicting by 420, but it all depends upon the block. Right now, we're currently on block 836,814. So we got roughly 3,200 blocks left to go until the Bitcoin halving, which is scheduled to take place in roughly 24 days. And here we can see $1 is currently equivalent to 1,441 Satoshis, and the Bitcoin market cap is sitting at $1.37 trillion. My question for y'all in the live chat, where do you feel the Bitcoin price will likely be by the time of the halving? Holla at your boy. But anyways, let's dive into a little Bitcoin TNA. Why don't we? The headline here reads, Bitcoin trades above 69,000 following the largest quarterly options expiry in history. The Bitcoin price remained above 69 G's, baby, on March 29th, despite the market experiencing the biggest quarterly Bitcoin futures options expiry event in history. Now, Hao Yang, global head of derivatives trading at Bybit, shared the following: we have experienced the largest option expiration in history for Bybit and Deribit as well. People may roll over or unwind their hedging position during the expiration time, and the action of unwinding may have a small impact on the price movement in a very short term. Now, over 15 billion worth of crypto futures options expired on Deribit today, March 29th at 8 a.m., according to a March 28th post by Deribit. Now, of the 15 billion, 9.5 billion represented the notional value of Bitcoin options expiring at a put-call ratio of 0.84 with a max pain price potential of 51 Gs. Now, while options expiry can lead to heightened volatility, the max pain price point doesn't offer an accurate reflection of Bitcoin's long-term price potential, which is still tied to its fundamental values, explained Yang. Just as a fancy gaming PC case doesn't directly impact the performance of the hardware inside, max pain is an indicator that provides some insight, but ultimately has limited influence on the actual price movement of BTC. So despite the expiry, the price impact was minimal, said Ardrey, project manager of Nexo's prime brokerage division, quoting him here: with the current scenario where calls are substantially in the money while puts are converging to zero, delta hedging has largely concluded, and we anticipate minimal price impact from the expiry. However, the pivotal question remains: with the call profits, will they be reinvested into new contracts? And if so, what strikes and maturities will be favored? Now, I'm curious, fam, how many of you actually trade options? Holla. Now, the Bitcoin price fell 0.7% in the last 24 hours leading up to this event. The world's first crypto is now up roughly 12% on the monthly chart, so don't get it twisted. The Bitcoin historic pre-halving retracement occurred in line with previous historical retraces. The current pre-halving correction may be over if Bitcoin price can flip its old all-time high of 69,000 into support, according to Red Capital, and precisely where we're currently at. Bitcoin is now peaking beyond this old all-time high, potentially positioning itself for this pre-halving retracement to be over. And quoting Titan of Crypto, he shares a chart and says, Bitcoin 97,000 target in sight. Send it. A golden cross just occurred. As expected, the death cross was a fake one. The bull flag is playing out. Once the all-time high gives in, it's a matter of time for Bitcoin to reach the target. The market has its way to drive you crazy. Patience. And as you can see in this chart, it shows us soaring all the way up to 97,000, right on the cusp of that six-figure milestone. Another bonus tweet I wanted to share from Kaiser, he points out here, this neatly describes the speculative attack that Saylor and Bukele are making against the US dollar and all fiat money using Bitcoin that moves $300 trillion of purchasing power into Bitcoin. That's a 150x move from here, 70,000 an example, to 10.5 million per BTC. So let me read you this of what he is referring to. As pointed out here, the money glitch. I've heard a lot of crypto bros say Saylor found an infinite money glitch, talking about 0.875% loans, which are used to buy Bitcoin. I wanted to look into this because it made no sense to have such a generous loan considering the risks involved in the strategy. Turns out it is not really free money. The Citigroup loans are collateralized and Bitcoin and are actually convertibles with 0.43 shares per $1,000 of par redeemable at 2,200. I also found out that they hold calls on MicroStrategy. So here's the business model. Citigroup lends cheap loans to MicroStrategy, which buys Bitcoin, hypes it up. The price of both Bitcoins and MicroStrategy go up. Citigroup calls pay off more cheap loans. And he continues here. Buy Bitcoin, price goes up, repeat. In the meantime, the media coverage brings in more people and the price climbs from the whole process, proving they were right. I don't know how much about the legality of this, but it seems really fishy. And then it mentions fraud back in the dot-com mania. Michael Saylor was the CEO in 2000 when the company was accused of fraudulent reporting over the 2 previous years. This led to the stock fall of a lot, 62% in one day, and eventually more than 90%. If you think he has changed, he was caught for committing tax fraud for $25 million just 2 years ago by reporting that his main address wasn't in DC through MicroStrategy Records. Conclusion, I think the people involved in all of this are massive crooks, but the companies isn't leveraged enough for the things to be really bad. So very interesting. I think that was the end there's actually one more here in the thread. Let me continue. I don't think this is 100% legal, but it is definitely abusing the current legislation on cryptos. On top of it all, you've got fund managers making silly price projections like 1 million a Bitcoin or 100 trillion market cap. The stock market is already pretty uncertain considering that the yield curve's been inverted for a while now and that the market has always underperformed at the current level of CAPE ratio. Multiple firms are having mass layoffs and consumers are reporting they can afford less. The market just seems way too confident considering the macroeconomics, and Bitcoin may be trouble down the line. Note, I have always been pretty biased against crypto, but pushback is welcome. And again, Max Kaiser's response to all this is basically saying this is the speculative attack that Saylor and Bukele are making against the dollar. And if we move up 150x with 300 trillion moving into Bitcoin, that would send Bitcoin from 70,000 to 10.5 million per BTC. All right, so as the headline reads, Bitcoin to attract 1 trillion from institutions amid the raging bull market, according to the Bitwise exec. That's right. Bitwise Chief Investment Officer Matthew Hoogan said institutional investors would likely inject as much as 1 trillion into Bitcoin through ETFs as they slowly move into crypto. In a memo sent to investment professionals, he addressed concerns over Bitcoin's price volatility as the asset bounces between 60 and 70,000. The executive said the best approach would be to keep calm and take the long view. Sage advice, patience is golden here in crypto. While the price seems unstable in the short term, Hogan noted, many key events to look forward to in the coming months and years. These include the Bitcoin halving and the spot Bitcoin ETFs getting approved on a national account platform like Morgan Stanley or Wells Fargo. Furthermore, the executive highlighted that the space has to wait for investment committees and consultants still conducting their formal due diligence on Bitcoin. This is a necessary step they have to take before investing in the asset. He said that while the space waits for these key events, the Bitcoin price would likely chop sideways whenever there are small changes in sentiment. However, the investment officer believes things would be different long term. Quoting him here, but long term, we believe Bitcoin is in a raging bull market. Not only is it up nearly 300% in the past 15 months, but there are strong reasons to think that will continue. Amen. According to Hoogan, the spot Bitcoin ETF approvals in January opened crypto to investment professionals in a major way, as we know. He also believes that investment professionals who control trillions of dollars are just starting to move into crypto. Hoogan highlighted that onboarding more professional investors would take years, not months. The executive also said that the $12 billion flowing into the ETFs since their launch is exciting and is the most successful ETF launch of all time. However, he believes that once global wealth managers begin to allocate just 1% of their portfolio into Bitcoin, this would mean 1 trillion in inflows into the space. Quoting him here, a 1% allocation across the board would mean $1 trillion of inflows into the space. Against this, $12 billion is barely a down payment. Very powerful words. What if they were to allocate 5%? That would bring $5 trillion worth of inflows into crypto, considering the crypto market cap all-time high, I believe, was roughly $3 trillion. That was back in 2021 when we hit the 69,000 all-time high. I mean, you run the math. The Bitcoin market cap today is roughly 1.3 to 1.4 trillion. So, I mean, a 5% allocation bringing in 5% inflows into these products such as the ETFs entering to crypto is a pretty big deal, which could potentially take us 5x as far as the price action is concerned. Keep stacking them stats, family, but let's dive into our next story of the day and discuss these insane inflows from the Bitcoin ETFs. The headline reads, new Bitcoin ETFs now hold 500,000 biddies, while GBTC outflows slow. Wow, 500,000 Bitcoin just like that since January 11th, family. 9 of the 10 new spot Bitcoin ETFs have accumulated over 500,000 Bitcoin since launching January 11th, with their holdings now accounting for 2.5% of the current circulating supply. Like, whoa. The 9 ETFs, which launched Jan 11th, hit the milestone following another day of inflows on Thursday, having scooped up roughly 300 million in Bitcoin, according to Farside investors. This brings the amount of Bitcoin held by the 9 ETFs to a current worth of 35 billion over just 54 trading days. Let that sink in, fam. This is unprecedented. This is the most ETF inflows of any ETF in history, and they just launched 54 days ago. Mind-boggling. So in total, all US spot Bitcoin funds, including Grayscale, hold 835,000 BTC, which is roughly 4% of the entire Bitcoin supply. Now, this week's ETF inflows are back in the black with 845 million in inflows measured thus far, reversing a trend of outflows that began March 18th. On March 28th, there was a total inflow of 183 million, with BlackRock leading the pack as its IBIT fund saw 95 million coming in. Now, Fidelity and Bitwise saw similar inflows around 67 million each, while ARC21 saw 27 million, following a huge inflow of 200 million on Wednesday. Grayscale's GBTC outflow was 105 million, the lowest it has been since March 12th. The crypto asset manager has now shed 284,846 BTC from its GBTC fund since it converted to a spot ETF mid-January. That's right, they were once the largest Bitcoin hodler in the world. And they may still be, but not for long, obviously, as BlackRock, MicroStrategy, and many others will soon surpass them. In related news, Bitwise filed an S1 app with the SEC for the spot Ether ETF on March 28th. Fellow ETF analyst Balchunas reacted to the news, stating that his odds for the ETH ETF approval in May remain a pessimistic 25%, but could go even lower. There are 7 weeks until the deadline, and the radio silence from the SEC is bleak. You can thank No Claire Gare for that. Yeah, so quoting Balchunas, getting tagged in tweets about the filing, the ETH CORR study, and other ETH ETF hopium. I respect it all, but our odds for the ETH ETF approval in May remain a pessimistic 25%. I'd go lower if I could, to be honest. There are 7 weeks till the deadline, and the radio silence from the SEC equals bleak. Again, personally, I want them to approve it, but I also want to get the call right. So it will be a perfect 4 for 4 in crypto, ETF, predictions. And shout out to Balchunas, who has been on the forefront with all the ETFs since, the launch and pre-launch, and he has been pretty accurate. So give credit where credit is due. But what are your thoughts? Do you think we'll likely see an Ethereum ETF approval this year? Or do you agree with him and you're pessimistic? Less than 25% chance? I'd say that's where I stand. I say 25% probability of the ETH ETF being approved, but most likely it not. But I can be wrong. We'll soon see. Because Mr. No Claire Gare provides no clarity, hence why it's No Claire Gare. Just saying. But anyways, fam, keep the comments coming. Let me know where you're tuning in from. We're live and in the flesh right now, but we still got a lot to cover. Let's discuss this Wyckoff SOS, followed by 150,000 target, followed by 180,000 prediction, followed by some live Q&A, shall we? That's right. The headline reads, Wyckoff SOS could catapult Bitcoin to 100 G's, baby. According to this hedge fund manager by the name of Charles Edwards, founder of Bitcoin and digital asset hedge fund Capriole Investments, he published a detailed explanation of Bitcoin's current market phase, suggesting a bullish trajectory, potentially reaching the six-figure mark. Send it. The analysis hinges on the identification of a Wyckoff sign of strength, a concept derived from the century-old Wyckoff method that studies supply and demand dynamics to forecast price movements. So that's right. The Wyckoff method, developed by Richard D. Wyckoff, is a framework for understanding market structures and predicting the future price movements through the analysis of price action, volume, and time. Now, the sign of strength within this methodology signifies a point where the market shows evidence, a demand overpowering supply, indicating a strong bullish outlook. Edwards' observation of an SOS pattern in Bitcoin's recent price movements suggests the market is at a pivotal point where sustained upward momentum is highly probable. I repeat, upward sustained momentum is highly probable, fam. Now, in Capriole's latest newsletter, Edwards offered a precise prediction of the Bitcoin market behavior, highlighting a period of volatility and consolidation in the 60 to 70,000 range. This phase was anticipated by the hedge fund, and currently as Bitcoin ventures above its last cycle all-time highs and also aligns with the predicted zigzags SOS structure, Edwards elucidates that it would not be surprising to see a liquidity grab to an all-time high. All consolidation above the monthly level at 56,000, extremely bullish. It would be uncommon, but not impossible for the price to continue in a straight line up. The zigzag phase also perfectly aligns with the halving cycle, as Bitcoin tends to consolidate both months either side of the halving. Now, Edwards added that the realities of a much lower supply growth rate, plus unlocked pent-up TradeFi demand with then kicking in, the launch of 12 months of historically the best risk-reward period for Bitcoin. So from a technical perspective, Bitcoin's foray into price discovery above 73,800 at this time is devoid of significant resistance levels. This opens a pathway to psychological and Fibonacci extension levels, with Edwards pinpointing 100,000 as the next major psychological resistance. That's right. Now checking out the fibs, the 1.618 Fibonacci extension from the 2021 high to the 2022 low is noted at $101,750, serving as a technical marker for potential resistance. Edwards reflects on investment sentiment, stating, "You can also imagine quite a few investors would be happy seeing six-figure Bitcoin and taking profit in that zone, acknowledging the psychological impact of such milestones." Let me know your thoughts on that, family. I personally feel 100,000 is a given for this year. In fact, Jennifer here in the chat has been calling for 100,000 before the halving, scheduled to take place in just less than a month. I'm firmly bullish on Bitcoin, as you know. Shout out to Caprioli Investments and Charles Edwards. Let me know your thoughts on some of those predictions. Anyways, fam, next story of the day. Let's discuss this $150,000 target. Headline reads, Bitcoin to skyrocket by over 110% if history repeats, says hedge fund veteran Mark Yusko. Let's break down his timeline, shall we? The co-founder and CEO of Morgan Creek Capital, Mark Yusko, doubles down on his prediction that Bitcoin will hit the six-figure mark over the coming months. He shared on a CNBC interview, Bitcoin would triple in price from its current value, fair value, or double in price from its post-halving fair value. Let me know if you agree with that. According to the veteran hedge fund funder, Bitcoin's fair value is estimated based on the number of users and miners and the network's effects. So quoting him here from the interview, we look at the fair value today from Metcalfe's law model. That gives us around 50,000. The halving occurs in 3 weeks. What a halving does, it cuts the block rewards, the amount of money that is given to the miners to secure the network. If those rewards were to get cut in half as they do, many of the miners would struggle. So historically, what has happened? The price rises, the fair value rises. So that would push it to 100,000. But this time, it's a little different in that instead of just block rewards, we get transaction fees because of ordinals and inscriptions. So let's say the fair value only goes to 75,000 per coin this time. Then post-halving, you get a lot of interest in the asset, a lot of people FOMO in, and we normally go to about 2 times the fair value in the cycle. So in the last cycle, the fair value was 30,000. We got as high as 69,000. This time, I think probably 2 times because there's less leverage. So that gets us to 150,000 per Bitcoin. Now, according to Yusko, Bitcoin can reach the peak for the bull cycle that will ensue around 9 months after the halving, quoting him here. So the big move happens post-halving. So the halving occurs sometime between April 20th and April 21st, most likely. So once that occurs, then you start to get an increase in demand right from the spot Bitcoin ETFs and other people interested. But the supply of new coins goes from 900 to 450 per day. Well, think about it. If there is more demand than supply, the price has to rise. So the price starts to rise. It starts to become more exponential or parabolic towards the end of the year. And historically, about 9 months after the halving. So sometime towards Thanksgiving, Christmas, we see the peak in price before the next bear market. So there you have it. To watch this interview he did on CNBC predicting $150,000 biddy, check the show notes below the video in the description and let me know your thoughts surrounding his bullishness on Bitcoin with the fair value and rising as high as 150,000 within 9 months after the halving, which would virtually be the end of this year, potentially as soon as early first quarter of 2025. Now let's dive into our feature story of the day. The headline reads, how high can Bitcoin go? New Bitcoin price prediction sees a cycle top at 180,000 per coin. Let's break this baby down. Bitcoin price could gain another 150% during this current bull market cycle, according to Laurent the CEO of Acheron Trading and Quantitative Trading Strategies. That's right, the executive anticipates a potential cycle top of 180,000 for the Bitcoin price, and this is based on a combination of factors, including the spot Bitcoin ETFs and the new supply reduction from the upcoming Bitcoin halving, which will occur in roughly 3 weeks, quoting the analysts here. If we look at historical performance with every cycle, the multiple on the all-time is getting lower. So if we apply this reasoning, it could be 2x to 3x what we saw previous cycles. So let's say around $120,000 to $180,000 per unit send it. Now, improving financial policy in the US will also contribute to the Bitcoin price appreciation, according to the analysts. The market is pricing in a reduction in interest rates because they have been flatlining, so it's reasonable to expect them to go down in the near future. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Now, the prediction is in line with several other recent forecasts. Bitfinex analysts, for instance, sees the price reaching 120,000 before the end of this year. And according to a research report shared with Cointelegraph, here's what they shared. Our analysis forecast a conservative price objective of 100 to 120,000 to be achieved by Q4 2024, and the cycle peak to be achieved sometime in 2025 in terms of total crypto market cap. The ETFs have introduced passive demand, which means demand is coming from investors that is largely price agnostic. Meanwhile, wealth management giant Bernstein predicts Bitcoin to break out, reaching 150,000 following the halving by mid-2025. And more ambitious targets put Bitcoin price peaking at 337,000 in the bullish case. For example, on-chain analyst Willy Woo, the Bitcoin analyst and managing partner at CMCC Crest, wrote in a March 11th post, Bitcoin at 71,000 puts us here in visual of the upper and lower bound models. The upper bound right now is 337,000. So this bull market is still early, equivalent to 20,000 of the last cycle. And what's more, seven-figure price targets are also emerging. One of the most well-known is from ARK Invest. Kathy Wood, pump those likes, brethren, for Kathy Wood, who now sees a 1 million Bitcoin price as too conservative by 2030, quitting her here. Our target is above that. It's well above that. And with our new expectations for institutional involvement, the incremental price that we assume for institutional or institutions actually has more than doubled. In fact, I've shared this a few days ago on the pod. She is predicting now over roughly $3 million per Bitcoin as a result. Now, Bitcoin, as we know, just recently recaptured 70,000 March 25th, 4 days ago, for the first time in 10 days. And Bitcoin's current top for the all-time high is $73,800. When do you feel we're likely to re-enter price discovery mode? Do you think that'll happen this weekend, this next week coming up before the halving? When do you think we hit that 100,000 six-figure mark? Let me know. Do you think it'll be post-halving? Do you think it'll be sometime this year? Or do you think it'll take a while and be next year? As history has shown us, the cycle peak is always the year preceding the halving. But something to consider as well is this halving is different from all the other halvings that come before us. We've had 3 halvings, one in 2012, the first one in 2016, and one in 2020. All of those halvings were ultimately driven by the retail. There was no institutional adoption whatsoever. There was no BlackRock. There was no Fidelity. There was no ARK 21. And calculating the amount of inflows of these ETFs, like BlackRock acquiring more Bitcoin than MicroStrategy, and it took them less than 3 months, in which it took MicroStrategy 4 years. We have game theory in play. Now, what about all of these other ETFs that have yet to even be launched in other countries around the world, such as Hong Kong, such as El Salvador, different types of ETF products, which will be Bitcoin in and Bitcoin out. So game theory in full effect. We also have the nation state adoption. Plus, you can't forget about the retail. Typically, after we hit the all-time high, that's when the retail FOMO actually begins. That's what we have seen previous cycles as well. Hence why in 2012, it was 2013, all-time high. And then 2016 halving, all-time high in 2017. Y'all remember Bitcoin climbed up to almost $20,000. That remained the all-time high until the next cycle. Then in 2020, we had the next halving. And in 2021, I think it was November 10th, we hit the previous all-time high, which was 69,000, and which was wild because at that time, we still had FTX. Now we have the FTX founder facing 25-year sentence in prison. As of yesterday, it was officially announced. Some say he'll get off in 2 Bitcoin cycles on good behavior, which would ultimately mean 8 years. Let me know your thoughts on that as well. And what are your thoughts about some of the most bullish catalysts and proponents for Bitcoin that have been preaching a $1 million Bitcoin price this year in 2024, including Samson Mao? We have Max Kaiser, who recently upped his prediction for this cycle as well to $750,000 per coin. I want to know your thoughts. How high do you feel will likely to climb? And where do you feel, or when do you feel this cycle peak will likely take place? Will it be this year in 2024, considering this year is just totally different for this cycle? Or do you think it'll maintain. 2025, where we hit the cycle peak, do you think there'll be a double top? Do you think there'll be a super cycle? Do you think there'll be hyper Bitcoinization? I want to know your thoughts. And yeah, drop them in the live chat, family. Mimi says 100,000 in October 2024. Right on. It's going up forever, Laura. You already know. Imagine in the far future where the Bitcoin price is close to near infinity, there'll be a legend of the last whole coiner. Wow. Will he finally be forced to sell? That's actually pretty lit there.